The other database I will demonstrate to you in this course guide is Academic Search Premier, which potentially is something that you have seen before. This database, compared to the other one, Opposing Viewpoints and Context, Opposing Viewpoints is a browsable database, whereas Academic Search Premier is something that you have to search. So you have to have a good handle at least on what your topic is, and potentially some search terms to get you started in order to use it effectively. Now, when you first click on Academic Search Premier and you enter into the database, you'll notice that there are multiple search boxes. This allows you to combine search terms. So where we filled out that blank table earlier, coming up with potential search term combinations, this is where that comes in handy. Okay, just to show you how this works. Whoops. Didn't realize I was in all caps. So let's just say I started with medical marijuana and I search that by itself. Okay, I get 47, almost 4,800 results, which is too many, right? I'm not going to go through that many, but also this is too broad of a topic. Now remember, when we worked on the worksheet, we had kind of identified some overarching themes, looking at the treatment aspect of medical marijuana, the actual medical uses, the legality aspect of it, and also the impact on the workplace. So I would want to make sure that I did enough different searches so that I could explore each of those three themes, as fully as possible. So let's say we look at the treatment aspect. One of the things that I was interested in was seizure disorders. Okay, so I have medical marijuana in the first search box and seizure disorder in the second search box. Okay, so remember I said one concept per box. Assuming I had not thought of the word epilepsy before, notice that it comes up in these autofill options, right? But I'm going to show you something else in the results list. So always pay attention to your autofill or the autocomplete, because that could potentially give you some ideas for search terms. But I'm going to combine these two search terms and see what happens. So I go from almost 4,800 down to 76. Okay. Now, your assignment doesn't want to go back more than 10 years. So on the left-hand side, I use this date slider to pull it up. Well, it only went back to 2013 anyway, so it was fine. So I have 74 results, which actually is not a bad number. Probably you could go through 74 results. As we scroll through our results, we see things that are called periodicals. We see things that are called academic journals. Okay, so the difference here is that a periodical is going to be something like a newspaper or a magazine, right? And an academic journal is going to be a peer-reviewed publication. In your guide, you will see that there is a tab on evaluating your sources that will talk about the difference between popular publications, which are periodicals like newspapers and magazines, and peer-reviewed articles. Generally, peer-reviewed are going to be what you look for in academic research, and at least two of your sources need to be peer-reviewed. So if you would like to go ahead and limit your results list to just peer-reviewed articles, on the left-hand side, you can click the Scholarly Peer-Reviewed button, and that will take out all the newspapers and magazines. Now we're down to 57. Okay. Again, one of the things that we see coming up is the word epilepsy. So let me go ahead just to show you. I have a dog under me. It's making typing a little difficult. So medical marijuana and epilepsy instead of seizure disorders. And that brings me up to 110. So epilepsy, seizure disorders ended up being like of a fine search term, but epilepsy is a stronger search term in this case. So at this point we go through, we're limited to full text, right? And we're looking to see what kinds of things we're coming up with. If any titles stand out to you as potentially useful, we have here therapeutic use of medicinal cannabis in difficult to manage epilepsy. That could potentially be useful. Excuse me. Advice from the FDA on cannabis children and pregnant lactating women, potentially. Things to look for. This one is full text. We have the PDF here, but like this one is not. It says find it. Just because it says find it doesn't mean that it's not available. It just means that it's not available in this database. So if you see that, you can click on the find it button. And what it will do is take you into the library's catalog and show you whether or not we have that item in another database. And in this case, that item is available in several other places. Okay, so we could click one of these places to access that article. Okay, so we were able to access that article through PubMed. All right, so you can get the full text from here. So just because it's not available in full text in this database doesn't mean that it's not available full text anywhere. Now we see something, let's say we want to click on this. We click on the title. Abstracts generally are longer than this, but we have an abstract. Abstracts are going to be a summary or overview of the main points of the article. This looks like it's a very short article anyway. We have the PDF full text on the left. If this looks like it's promising, on the right hand side under Tools, we see this button that says Email. We can click that button, enter our email address here, and then usually for subject I'll put the title of the article into it. And notice that here it's checked off PDF as a separate attachment. What will happen when you send this to yourself from the database is the full text PDF will be attached to the email, so that you'll have access to the full text of the article from wherever. What I recommend doing is in your Outlook, create a folder and give it whatever name you want. You can say English 101, you can title it Persuasive Paper, whatever, and everything you email yourself from the database, move to that folder. And so once you've gone through and done all of your searches and pulled all of your sources together, you can go to that folder and just go through and read everything, and you'll have all of your articles in a central location that you can access from anywhere. So you send this to yourself and then you'll have access to it. Another thing I would like to point out in this database, on the right hand side under Tools, we have the email button, but a little further down we have the Cite button. And people tend to get very excited about the Cite button. I'm going to scroll down to the MLA portion. Something that we generally tell students is that cite buttons in databases or any sort of machine-generated citation is very much a buyer beware sort of situation. There are almost always some sort of errors in these types of citations. In the situation here, and this is the case in all of the EBSCO databases, the title of the database is always wrong, and this is something that you need to keep in mind. The rest of the citation looks pretty much fine, but here the title of the database is listed as EBSCOhost. That is not correct. EBSCOhost is the vendor who we get the database from, but this specific database is Academic Search Premier. Okay. The reason this is important, see we have the EBSCO logo, searching Academic Search Premier. If we click this Choose Databases, we'll see this list. These are all the databases that we get from EBSCO. So if you just say EBSCO, we don't know which one you're talking about. You have to indicate the specific database that you're in. So this is kind of a frustrating error that this citation generator always produces. It is not EBSCO. You want to use Academic Search Premier as the title of your database. For the purposes of citation, if you need a permalink, in this case, this article has a DOI, which is what you would use in your citation because it's available. A DOI is a digital object identifier. It essentially works as a stable URL that's assigned by a publisher to the article. But if a DOI is not available, within this database on the right hand side under Tools, you would click this permalink button and it will give you a stable URL in this box. You would use that in your citation. Okay, so the goal is to provide a stable URL. The DOI serves that purpose, but if a DOI is not available, you'll click the permalink button on the right hand side under Tools. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so we did medical marijuana, we did epilepsy. Let's say we explored our results list. Let's try medical marijuana and workplace and see what happens. Okay, and we scroll through, we get 26 results. We've limited to peer reviewed, we've limited our date, and immediately the first thing I see here is a PDF full text, medical marijuana addressing impairment in the workplace. I feel like that's exactly what I'm looking for. I have an abstract, which is going to be a summary or overview of the article. Again, on the right hand side under Tools, I can email it to myself if I need to. Okay, and so that's what you're going to do. You're going to go through, you're going to combine different search terms, and you're going to go through the results list, and you're going to email yourself everything that looks like it could potentially be useful. If you are not sure how to limit your search, right? Maybe you couldn't come up with anything. We do medical marijuana. There's the autocomplete options. You could explore the different things that it gives you there. But let's just say I start with medical marijuana. I have almost 4,800 results, remember? If we scroll down and look under subject thesaurus term, okay, on the left hand side, if we click that and then click show more, what this is a breakdown of the articles in this results list according to like major keyword. And so if all you knew that was that you were interested in medical marijuana, you could come to this sidebar, click on subject thesaurus term, and just explore what's there. We talked about the treatment aspect of marijuana. Therapeutics might be something you would click on. Marijuana laws, marijuana legalization, drug control, potentially like substance abuse if you wanted to explore that aspect. Pain management. Chronic pain, we talked about pain management. Chronic pain might be another word to use, right? So there are all these different things here that if you had not thought of them already, this could potentially generate some search terms for you. And what you can do is you can select one thing at a time, you can select multiple things at a time. Maybe I'm interested in looking at chronic pain and pain management, and I update. So I went from almost 4,800 articles to 230. And if I wanted to, on the left-hand side, I could limit to peer-reviewed. And if I needed to limit by date, I can drag that up to 2010. Right? So I'm at 160, which is still quite a few, right? You could start exploring to see what you have. Or you could go back, and the subject thesaurus term will limit, get more and more specific each time. And so you can go through and you can look at specific types of the drugs, palliative treat, like some in different contexts in which it's used, palliative treatment, chronic pain treatment, quality of life, okay, cancer patients. That was one of the things that I had written in my free write. So maybe I do cancer patients. And now I'm down to 7 results. So this database, even though it's not browsable like opposing viewpoints, it's searchable, but it does try to help you as much as possible to narrow down your search so that you get the information that you need. I hope this demonstration was helpful to you. Again, if you have questions, please reach out and ask me.